Hi, and welcome to Ability Assistance. My name is Phyllis Jones, and I am Chair of the North Andover Commission on Ability Assistance.
My name is Stacy Leibowitz, and I am the Commission Secretary.
Behind the camera today, we are also joined by fellow Commission member Jeff French, students from the Greater Lawrence Technical School's Graphics Communications Shop, Carly Jones, Josh Robles, and Jamie Nunez, and our director, Susan Martin from North Andover CAM. Today is a one of two-part program with our guest, Melissa Strout, Director of Compliance and Integrity of Triangle. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome. We're very happy to have you. This episode will be discussing youth services. So again, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We want to start off with learning a little bit more about the background of Triangle.
Sure.
So if you could give us some information on the history, background, and why Triangle exists to serve individuals.
Absolutely. So Triangle was founded in 1971 by a group of community members who wanted to support folks who had developmental disabilities. We started off with services in Malden, Medford, and Everett, which is where the name Triangle comes from.
That's great.
We started off primarily with residential supports for folks. I believe we had 3 homes in that area. So currently we offer residential supports, employment supports, as well as community-based supports, and also self-advocacy and abuse prevention for folks with a variety of disabilities and a variety of ages.
Now, we're focusing in this program on youth services.
Sure.
Youth has very different meanings to very different people.
Right.
What do you consider age-wise youth services?
Yep, so for our youth services, technically it ranges from the age around 14 or 16 to about early 20s, so that could be about 22 to 23.
Okay, and what sort of services do you offer people in that range category?
Sure, absolutely. So again, we offer a variety of services, from employment supports to community connections, which could range from our impact supports to also our EPIC program, which we'll talk a little bit about. Yeah.
So School to Career is one of the programs that you focuses on, which goes from 16 to 26, if I'm correct.
Sure.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about what that program looks like?
Yep, so School to Career program, we're connecting again with youth with the ages that you mentioned, specifically through high schools and or folks that might be interested in our programming. So we connect with those programs. The students come to our program during the day, a specific day range. They're getting supports from a variety of standpoints, whether that's looking at competitive employment, from job coaching to consulting about different interests they might have, to also resume building, skills around interviewing, skills around different specific techniques that they might use within different jobs.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, more people, anybody could use those type of systems.
Sure,
Exactly.
Right.
And pretty much at any age, but
Yes.
especially with youth, I think things have become so much more competitive out there, regardless of whether you have a cognitive disability or not. So being able to empower individuals from a younger age is really relevant. So can you provide us with a success story of a person who's come out of this program and what the next steps were for them and how they're doing?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll talk a little bit about our program within Randolph. Currently, we offer School to Career in a variety of our different day sites, which could range from our Salem day site to our Malden to our Randolph day site.
Great.
So in one particular case, a young lady came to us from Randolph High School with a diagnosis of an intellectual disability, also some socioeconomic challenges and things like that within her family life, but has shown a great deal of success. She went through our programs, which again, we focused on resume building, different skills that she might need, so even how to dress for success in that case. We also focused on interviewing for the specific job. So she was able to obtain a job, I believe, at Forever 21 down that way, and has done great. She actually obtained what we call a Spirit Award from Triangle, which is really the essence of what we do and wanting to celebrate successes for the folks that we work with. She's been able to show that independence within her community, and we wanted to celebrate that.
Oh yeah, that sounds fantastic. But if you're not in Randolph, what, how can people get involved with that? They sit back and they watch us or listen, and they're like, oh gee, but I'm not really close to Randolph.
What does that mean?
Exactly.
So again, we offer our day supports within a variety of different communities. Currently we have Randolph, Salem, and also 2 sites within Malden. Basically, the way that it works right now is if you're connected to a school and we're working with them, that might be a way to connect with us depending on the location. Could also be a way to connect with the Department of Developmental Services, or DDS, and also the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission, depending on that location. But you can also reach out to us in general and we can find a way to work with you.
And just to clarify, only because where North Andover is located and you say Salem, you're talking about Salem, Mass.
I am talking
Yes.
about Salem,
Okay.
Mass. Thank you for clarification.
Yes.
No, because around here you say Salem and they're like, oh, they're up in Salem,
Salem,
New
New Hampshire,
Hampshire.
right.
Thank you for that. I appreciate Salem,
Yes.
Massachusetts.
So these programs are Massachusetts specific
Yes,
that we
yes.
are focusing on. So the next question I have is, there's obviously another program called Transitions to Successful Careers,
Yes.
if I'm correct. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what that program looks like?
Absolutely. So that program, again, focuses with youth, could range from high school students to also college students, and helping them to obtain competitive employment. Again, we're looking at things around job consulting and job coaching. So kind of putting them through, I would say, a rigorous program. We do a boot camp where they, again, learn different skills, whether that's how to dress for success, but also focusing around self-advocacy and independence. And again, hoping that the idea by the end of that program is that they obtain competitive employment.
Now, you're saying specific skills. I walk in, or I bring my son in, and I have some sort of a cognitive disability or maybe even a physical disability. What sort of skills are you going to teach me based upon, I realize it's a rather broad question,
Sure.
but can you narrow that down a little bit?
Yep. So I can tell you a little bit too how we get to that point. We
Please.
would do an assessment process, which is where we sit down and we get to know a little bit more about you, understand what your interests are, but then also that helps us to have an idea as to how we can support you and the things that you might be more interested in terms of those skills. So we can talk about things like eye contact. We can talk about things about how to be prepared, how to show up a little bit early for an interview. Again, looking at the way that you're dressed, those kinds of things. So it really is dependent upon the person, but we do our homework in a sense to be able to really determine what that specific support is for that person.
So it really is quite individualized.
Absolutely. I would say all of our programs are individualized in that sense.
Which is good to know because, you're not cookie cutter.
I was going to say we do not have
Exactly.
cookie cutter programs, and that's why it's my answer in most cases. It depends because for each person it's very different.
Which can be rather exhausting sometimes for people, but you'll work with them to figure out
Absolutely.
exactly what you can and cannot do for them.
Absolutely.
And if you can't do something, you'll be able to focus them in the right direction
Exactly.
to give them the answers that they need.
That's what I was going to say. If there's a chance where we might not be the best support, that we will always guide someone in finding that support.
Which is
That's the most
sometimes,
important thing.
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Especially if people don't have any answers whatsoever.
Exactly. How is this different from the first program, and is there a difference in the age range at all?
No, thank you for asking. So this program, the Transition to Successful Careers, is a little bit more of a fast track.
Okay.
So typically in this case, we're looking at folks who do have a little bit more in terms of their readiness for competitive employment. Again, we're still providing those consulting services in the sense that we're looking at our boot camp and our skill building, but it's a little bit more fast-paced.
And do you have coaches that work with the individuals, like once they get into the community, if there's additional support that's needed, because sometimes job coaching on site might be a necessity? What does that look like?
Yep, so we definitely do. So in this case, they're provided with a case manager in a sense, who would contact them in that sense and either work with them on the job site, meet with them on a regular basis to provide those supports, but definitely checking in to make sure things are going well.
That's great.
Now, you were talking, if I may, about how things are a little bit faster in the boot camp. Faster can mean different things to different people. Your non-boot camp levels, how long roughly does that period take versus your boot camp level?
It can take as long as it needs to take. Again, that's where the individualized service comes into play. But for folks who are more ready for competitive employment, we try to look around like to a 3 to 6 months time range.
Okay.
But again, it really depends upon the person and what that level of support looks like for them.
So it could be something that's 2 months, or it could be something that's a year to a year and a half, depending upon that person's needs.
Exactly, absolutely.
And once they're in an employment situation and say you can pull back on the coaching, what does that structure look like? And are there times that you need to have a coach come back in You know,
Absolutely.
what are some of those scenarios?
So that's where we would look at it more as a checking-in basis, and that could mean coming to our site and checking in with the case manager there, or going out to the site directly with that person. We've also had situations where we're working with the employers themselves and getting feedback in that sense. So maybe if there's a situation where we haven't heard from the individual we're supporting, but we've heard from the employer, it gives us an opportunity to try to be proactive in that sense and kind of support the person.
And speaking of the employers, because you're trying to, what does it look like to build the relationships with the employers? What is that process? Because obviously you're in a situation where you're educating the employers about the importance of hiring people who may have some cognitive challenges, and there may be hesitancy on their end. What does that situation look like for
Absolutely.
you?
That's a great question. So it's a very unique relationship that we provide to the employers. Going in and providing them with an understanding about what it means to work with folks with different disabilities, and that it's not a bad thing, and that it actually will benefit them within the jobs that they have. So again, it's a process where we provide education from a variety of standpoints, and then also making sure that we check in and make sure that that relationship is going well and maintain a way to communicate openly about those kinds of things.
That's great.
Now you have additional services. EPIC. What is EPIC?
Good question. So EPIC stands for Empowering People for Inclusive Communities. EPIC works, again, with youth ranges from about 14 to mid-20s. And it's a competitive program where we have youth who are applying to become service warriors, basically to be able to give back to their communities from a number of different standpoints. It's a very highly competitive program, but they do a lot of great work, from community service to also working with other individuals with disabilities to promote self-advocacy and independence.
Now you say it's a competitive program. What does that mean?
So there's an application process, and the director of that program, Jeff Lafata, oversees that process, and they meet with him, they apply, they do interviews and that kind of thing, and then they're accepted into the program.
Almost like a college interview type of a process without the SATs.
It is, and that's kind of a great way to look at it, because it's helping youth, again, build those skills, then so when they do apply to colleges and other jobs, they have those skills early on.
And what sort of jobs or community-based programs are they doing? I mean, are they volunteering in their local government, or are they perhaps maybe, for lack of a better term, interning with Triangle? What sort of programs are they working through?
So a lot of times it's working with either nonprofit groups, or in other community groups, again, to provide more education about folks with disabilities. And or community service projects. So one of the things that our EPIC program recently hosted was our Boston Serve project.
Okay.
So every year there is a bigger community project, typically connecting with a local high school that might need supports, and the service warriors, so the individuals, will lead different groups to be able to do painting, different cleanup of the areas.
That's great.
And it's usually, again, they do a number of service projects throughout the year, but there's always one big project where it's another way for the community to also get involved.
Now, different school departments who might be watching this in the area, how could they get involved with possibly bringing some of your kids on board?
That would be great. So definitely going through our website and looking at our EPIC website there would be a great way to do that. Connecting with Jeff Lafata, who is the director of that program, is a great person to reach out to.
And I assume his information is right on your
Absolutely.
website as
Yes.
well.
Yep.
Can you provide, because I think this is such an important program, I mean, all the programming is, but making sure that individuals with cognitive challenges are able to self-advocate and to be able to get out there. I always like hearing the success story, so yet I'm going to bring up that question of, do you have somebody who's come out of this program, and what is the success you've seen with them moving forward?
Absolutely. So I can speak to a gentleman that I've worked with specifically with different behavioral challenges as well as cognitive challenges, who went through our EPIC program, was a service warrior before I even knew him. And I got to know him a little bit more when he was moving into more competitive employment. But I have to tell you, he's somebody who advocates for himself beyond belief in my case, and has advocated to move into a residential program to obtain the job he wants. and has worked hard to hold that, and now has a really good job. I can't remember exactly where that is now, but he's doing really well, and he's very
Good for him.
successful.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
And I think the EPIC program helped in building those skills and building that self-advocacy and independence.
Right, and it sounds like it really builds self-confidence.
Exactly.
That you have a community of people. I mean, you're so used to hearing how the parents and the family members. It's important for them to advocate,
Absolutely.
but the importance for individuals to be able to advocate for themselves is huge,
Absolutely.
and that's who you want to hear from.
Yeah,
So it sounds
especially where
an
they
amazing
won't always
program.
have the parent or the
Exactly.
the aunt or the uncle or whoever's been raising them from
Exactly.
birth.
Absolutely.
So moving on to one of your other really very well-known programs is Impactability.
Absolutely.
Very critical program. I don't even think just for individuals with disabilities, but even
No.
going
Yeah.
beyond
Right.
that. So
Absolutely.
tell us about this important program.
Absolutely. So impact is a little bit of a twofold. Impact itself works with folks not necessarily with disabilities, but anyone who's interested in abuse prevention, again, self-advocacy, building that self-confidence. We teach abuse prevention classes and specific physical strategies to use, but then also working on, again, different support groups to build that confidence up. So women's support groups, men's support groups.
That's great.
And then we also have Impactability, which works specifically with folks with disabilities. And again, disability takes a wide range in that sense. Again, we're building techniques around specific strategies to avoid abuse, but then also building self-confidence. Within Impactability, we also have what we call healthy relationships training, which is huge too. And we're talking about how to work with people that you might not necessarily be familiar with around appropriate touch, things like that, what's okay to talk about, not to talk about.
That sounds like everybody should be taking.
Right, I was just going to say.
I've actually, in terms of, I've been in the field for a while now and not seen a program like Impacts before, and I'm very lucky to be able to work with the folks at Impactability because they do a lot for the individuals that we work with at Triangle.
Now,
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Probably going to ask the same thing.
Probably.
Stacy and I have worked together for so long. You mentioned that it's not just for people who are considered disabled. You've got women's programs, you've got men's programs, you've got youth's programs. I think I was learning on the website you've got one for LGBTQ
Absolutely.
population people. So if it's out there, it's there. Can you give some examples of actual classes or, kind of enlighten us, broaden us into really specifics about what's going on so that people have a better idea?
What does it look
Absolutely.
like?
So Impact is a nationally recognized program, and Meg Stone is our executive director, and she does a lot of great work and travels around the country to make sure that the importance of impact is known. Currently, she's working out of North Dakota with a reservation out that way to be able to provide supports and train the trainers, so that way
amazing.
they're being able to provide these services. In terms of a more local example, a lot of our folks, when they're coming to our program to get supports, whether again competitive employment or more community-based, they take impact classes. And it's been a huge success, and folks not being taken advantage of in the community and those kinds of things, and standing up for themselves, and again, building that self-confidence, being able to being able to do something like travel independently has come from the supports that they've received through Impact. And, as an agency, all of us working together, which has been huge. So tying in the skills that they learn in Impact to how we can support them in then obtaining a job or looking in the community.
Now, you mentioned traveling. How could we possibly bring something local for, whether it be the kids through the schools or through the senior center or just something in general for the community?
Absolutely. So again, going through our website and reaching out to Meg Stone, whose information is on there, is a great way to do that. They actually provide a number of supports through schools right now currently, and then also other organizations and agencies who might be interested in learning a little bit more about abuse prevention.
That's
so
really
that's
great.
probably a great way to be able to do that.
And I'm assuming there's a cost associated.
Yes.
What does that look like, that
I'm
structure?
not quite sure about the exact
Okay.
cost, but that's something, again, that's dependent upon the program and what the needs would be.
Okay.
And that's something that the folks at Impact could be able to work out for sure.
And do you have a success story that's come out of that? Because I know, there are some instances where, there's misunderstanding about somebody who may have been in a situation that may have been difficult, and they end up being moved into something that may not be ideal as a result. What has the experience been for some of the individuals served?
They seem to love the programming
That's
that we
great.
provide through Impact. Again, the folks that are teaching our Impact classes have a wide variety of training and education themselves, so they're knowing a variety of different skills to be able to work with folks in that case. But we've heard nothing but great things about that program, and it continues to grow and expand quite widely. So
As
that's
it
great.
should.
Yes, exactly.
No, it's I wouldn't mind, learning more about that on a personal level as a mom.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a teenage daughter, I've got a son who's in special needs classes, and they both come from different backgrounds in terms of their own needs, and that sounds like something fantastic that, to just bring in general to a community.
Absolutely.
I've actually taken the Women's Basic Impact course myself, and I can tell you it's amazing. It's a great course to go through.
Where you've actually taken the
Sure.
Women's Impact course. Can you explain to us what you've done and the different types of classes that you took?
So it talks a lot about being able to stand up for yourself. So I'll use one of the stances they teach you, no, right? So how to tell them it's okay to say no, but then building that confidence and raising your voice and those kind of things, which from a personal standpoint was a little hard for me at first, but building that confidence. And then so the way that they kind of work it is that the classes build on one another so that you're getting a little bit more involved. In the classes, the one I went through was around physical techniques as well, and how to prevent situations, but also how to get out of situations and get to safety.
And so you've obviously taken at least this particular class. What about other staff through Triangle? Is it a requirement for most staff to take this as a way of being able to work with individuals? What does that look like?
Sure. It's not necessarily a requirement, but if a Triangle staff is interested, it's free for them. So
great.
anyone can obtain the supports in that case too. And again, the Impact folks are great in the sense that if you're a little nervous about it, that they'll work more individualized with you to be able to support you through that
So
too.
everybody's comfortable taking
Exactly.
the...
So if you're not somebody who can just put yourself out there,
Yep, because it's
but
tough.
you still
Yeah.
have that, we all have our little times where we want to get inside of our shell.
Absolutely, yes, yes.
So you help bridge that. It's like, okay, we know you can do X. We need to get you to Z.
Right.
So
Right.
let's figure out how to go through Y in
Absolutely.
order to get you there.
And that's important to have that type of personalized training, especially for individuals. I mean, I think for everybody, like you say, Phyllis,
Exactly.
but especially for individuals who may have different challenges, you're able to kind of personalize that and address it so they are comfortable and they don't feel panicked through the process. So,
Absolutely.
and then ultimately they come out more empowered than when they went in. So that's really essential.
Absolutely.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
Now, getting in touch with you is probably, in this age of social media, 5 million different ways to get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
Where can we find you on your website? Do you tweet? Do you Instagram?
We do everything.
Do you
Is what I can
Facebook?
say. Yeah, we have everything. Typically, you'll find Triangle as Triangle People with Ability. That's the way that our handle typically looks. But yes, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and then our website too. It's a great place to look at.
That's great.
And you have a lot of information on all of those places, or regardless of where you're at, it'll all point you to the same.
Absolutely. Yep, you'll still be connected to our website, but in terms of social media, you'll also get to see a little bit about the work that we're doing from, again, a variety of our programs, whether it's Impact, our residential supports, or our transition services.
Now, do you offer, I know a lot of organizations offer, you have the regular page, and then you have closed pages for people who fall into different, categories. Do you have the closed Facebook page capability so that when somebody's out there and you know about them, that they can have that kind of one-on-one help reach out type of, I don't know, I'm probably not making any sense. I'll just put it out there. My Weight Watchers group has a closed page on Facebook.
Right.
And there's a camaraderie in between.
It's almost
it.
like not so much even a blog, but like a conversation
Exactly.
or discussion board on Facebook that can be
Exactly.
private.
That's closed.
I'm not sure that we
Yeah.
have that for sure, but it's an idea that'll run by our development team. But it's typically if you're got a question about something and you throw it out there, they're very quick to respond and get back to you and to support you with that.
That's the biggest thing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
having me.
Melissa. We appreciate it.
We'll see you on episode 2. So we thank you again to our crew behind the camera. We've got commission member Jeff French and our kids from the Greater Lawrence Technical Graphics School Communications Shop, Carly Jones, Josh Robles, and Jamie Nunez. Our director, Susan Martin of North Andover CAM. Please subscribe to our Facebook page at Commission on Disability Issues, NAND, for local news and information about other nonprofits and organizations that offer services you may be interested in. You can subscribe for free to North Andover CAM's station on YouTube and Watchability Assistance anytime on demand. And you can also reach us directly by calling Town Hall at 978-688-9500. And we look forward to bringing you new episodes of Ability Assistance soon. And from everyone here to everyone out there, happy Thanksgiving.